Welcome to the podcast. Today, my guest is Brad Hoksing.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Brad Hoksing is a talented multi-instrumentalist. He runs a studio called Blind Boy in Nerang. He lectures at Southern Cross University here on the Gold Coast, teaching music and sound production. He also tours the world with Amy Shark and was involved in her recording career right from the very beginning. In this podcast, we talk about how Brad got started in the music industry and his journey to where he is today. Let's go back to where you first got into being interested in music.
Yeah, interesting. So I think for me, music was always a really big part in our family. My old man, Roy, he was the long-time conductor of the Townsville Brass Band where we grew up. So some of my first memories, I just remember going to band concerts or contests as it was, as just a real youngster, as soon as I could walk or whatever, probably younger than that, and watching my dad either conduct or play cornet in concerts and things like that with the brass band. So
Townsville's a military town. Was the brass band thing in association with a military thing, or is it something separate?
It wasn't directly, but there was some guys that lived there that were military guys that played in the army bands and stuff as well. But they were considered a professional band because they were getting paid to play and all that kind of stuff. And we were very much a community type thing, so it wasn't really related at all.
Oh, okay.
Interestingly, but yeah, so yeah, my father played a lot, and obviously as you're a young fella growing up, you kind of look to your older brother and you look to your dad and see what they're doing, and you want to be a part of it. So yeah, the whole family was part of it. My two younger sisters, my mum as well. So
wow.
Yeah, so that was probably the earliest memory of being interested in music and seeing someone on stage and wanting to do the same thing.
What was the first instrument that you played?
The first instrument that I formally started playing was piano. So we started getting piano lessons when I was like 5 or something, or grade 1 or something like that. And then, brass was actually a secondary thing that I didn't start until, my brother was going to get started.
Because I know you played euphonium.
Yeah, that was essentially my primary instrument. Probably, might still be really, but yeah, I haven't really.
Can you, for people who are of the non-musical variety, and probably even for me, I know what a trumpet is and a sax and a trombone. What's a euphonium?
So euphonium is kind of, you see them in military bands and brass bands, every now and then in an orchestra, but it's essentially a tenor tuba, so slightly smaller tuba.
Okay, so the tuba is the one that goes with the big horn facing upwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you think of a tuba, the pimply-faced bloke walking down playing ones and fives, just a smaller version of that.
A smaller version of a tuba. Okay, cool. Wow.
Yeah, but consider, I suppose a good way to think about it is it's like the cello of the brass band. It's like that kind of voicing.
Yeah.
And like mellowness and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, cool. So, did you play music in school?
Yeah, so growing up, I suppose the school band was always a thing, but we were in like youth bands, that the youth brass bands and things like that, and getting piano lessons on the side. So the school band was a thing, but it was just a kind of a filling in numbers more thing rather than getting lessons, because we were getting external lessons from like when we were quite young, like say 7 or 8 to about 11 or 12 from my dad every week, and he had the brass band academy, and all the youngsters from all over Townsville would come and get lessons off him, and we slotted into our lesson each week and have to practice and all that kind of stuff, which was cool.
So did you do the grade system of piano playing?
Yeah, did little bits and pieces. I probably only did it up to about grade 5 or 6 or something like that, and yeah, I stopped playing in grade 7, but probably did grade 5 or 6, and similarly with euphonium, probably only did grades up to about then. And
so why stop? What happened for you to you moved on to other instruments? Because I know you play a multitude of instruments.
Yeah. I suppose I don't know. It was just one of those things. You got to a level, like I really enjoyed playing piano, and I probably played piano longer than my brothers and sisters did. But it got to a point where I was playing a lot of cricket and stuff as well, and lots of extracurricular things.
Because I know you did very well. You're really quite an accomplished cricket player.
Sort of ish. not good enough. Not good enough. But I really enjoyed playing it and played a lot of it. But
what other sports did you play?
Like every young boy, started playing soccer and under sixes and things like that, and lots of indoor cricket. But yeah, outdoor cricket was the passion. Yeah, it was always the what do you want to be when you grow up, and play cricket for Australia was the dream as a youngster. But yeah, and then getting older is like, oh no, I'll be a physiotherapist for the Australian cricket team. And then get to grade 12 and it's like, oh, maybe I will study music, and because initially I thought it was just going to be a hobby, but yeah, now it's become a career, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. You obviously moved from Townsville. Was that at the end of school to come down and study? So you went to, where did you study after school? I
studied at the Conservatorium on the Gold Coast, the popular music degree. So I moved when I was 17 from Townsville to study, and yeah, I've been here ever since. So that would have been 2002, so wow, 23 years ago.
Yeah. There was a little while where you joined the Accidents and played a bunch of corporate gigs and stuff with the band. That came about because of Wazza. So obviously, when you'd finished university, you got a job working for a jingle company, which was
100%.
Called London Music Group.
Yeah, it's probably the best apprenticeship that I've really had in terms of like formulating what I do now, I suppose. So yeah, studying uni, the popular music degree was a lot of like, I suppose, learning the seeds of production and Pro Tools and how to make records and things like that. That's kind of what I was trying to get out of it, to be a record producer, but continuing songwriting and all that kind of stuff. There wasn't a huge amount of performance stuff, but I was doing plenty of that. I moved from Townsville Brass and started playing for like Surfers Paradise Brass Band, and then moved to Brisbane Excelsior Brass Band. So I was still kind of amongst that world as well, but I was still writing songs, and I played in rock bands and stuff when I was in high school. I had a band called The Kitchen, and that was a lot of fun with just good mates just making music, and we made a record when we were in high school and won a few Battle of the Bands and all that kind of jazz. But that, I suppose, the fun around that was what led me to study contemporary music and production and songwriting, and then from there, from uni, that's what I kind of wanted to do afterwards. And then my good mate Dan Carroll, who I played in bands with while I was through uni and still do now with a band called City Over Sand, he mentioned that go and hit up the guys at London Music Group, because he was a vocalist and did some session work as a jingle singer, and go and hit those guys up in Mollendina. And so I sent them an email, and they're like, come in and write some jingles for us. I was like, happy days. Yeah.
So that obviously worked out quite well for quite a reasonable amount of time. How did you find the uni course? Did you think it prepared you well for what came after?
Like I tell anyone that's going to study music, like I look after a bachelor degree now and very heavily involved in the academic side of things. The way that I view university isn't necessarily, are you going to go there and learn everything that you need to know to then go out into industry? Really, the way that I kind of think about it is that, are you going to learn some fundamental things which then, or like, can some seeds be planted that then you'll go off and propagate and be able to develop your own career or something out of, especially in creative arts. So that's the way that I viewed it. I kind of went there as a very green kind of songwriter, wanted to be a record producer but didn't really have much skill in that area, and had 3 years there to kind of make mistakes and learn all the wrong things. So then when I did start to do stuff, I had a little bit of an idea, but what I learned in the first kind of 2 weeks or month or so working at London Music Group was like a huge stepping stone, having to do it for 10 hours a day and under very, I suppose, strict deadline. Yeah, that taught me so much. And yeah, like learning from some other great musicians and great creative brains like Wazza and Rick Hollis and Hamish Robertson and went in my first kind of little bit of time there, and Simon Mills, like they taught me a lot about how to basically cut the guff. I was writing 7 minutes, what I considered to be like, I don't know, very good musical songs and stuff at uni, and then I had to write 30-second songs about trying to get people to love washing machines. You know,
hook.
Yeah,
give me the hook.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, I'm not going to use a 1-4-5 progression because everybody does that. I'm going to be at uni, like I'm going to be so much more musically better than this, and then start writing jingles, and you're like, well, it works for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really taught me a lot, and I did that for like full time for, I don't know, I suppose 5 or 6 years, and in that time probably wrote hundreds and hundreds of jingles that kind of went all around the world. And yeah, it's just that kind of discipline of having to do that and write somewhere between 3 and 6 brand new jingles a week, and just week after week after week.
Yeah, it really is the time constraint, I guess, is one of the biggest issues. You can't wait for inspiration to strike. It's make it happen now.
100%, yeah. And you just get better at what I've really learnt about it that I kind of even take away now is like it forces you to have to be creative in any situation. We could be on a trip and I'd have to write a jingle sitting in the back of a car driving from Devonport to Hobart, for example, and then by the time we get there I need to have the song written and everything done.
Well, I can remember you coming to gigs with an SM7B and going, Scotty, can you record a vocal for me?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In the green room at a corporate gig.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I was driving here, actually, getting you to sing it, mix it really quickly, and then actually sending it to the client on your like Nokia that had internet or whatever at the time before we left the gig. And yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those things, and which I kind of look at artists now saying, like, I can't only write songs when I'm in the mood and it strikes me and blah, blah, blah. I kind of don't really subscribe to that because I think you need to be able to learn how to be able to switch your brain to be creative at any point.
Well, yeah, I can't remember which was a writer who basically said that they dedicate the first 2 hours of their day, might have been Jerry Seinfeld even, was talking about writing jokes and writing comedy or writing a TV show, where he would sit down and sit at his word processor, typewriter, laptop, computer, whatever it was, and he would do nothing else but try and write. He said he might not have done anything in that 2 hours, but there was no interruptions, no phone. The whole purpose was to sit and be available to write and try and write something.
100%.
And it basically said if you do that every single day, eventually the stuff will come. And it's particularly if you put away every other distraction. I guess that's the hardest thing in today's society. We have so many distractions.
Yeah. So you've got to, I suppose, try and find ways to not be distracted, right?
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done.
Well, it is a discipline.
Yeah.
It is a discipline. I mean, I find, for me, I work in the studio a lot late at night, and I find that much easier because the phone doesn't tend to ring, and it's easier to block out the world, and because most of the rest of the world's asleep.
Yeah, and your emails aren't dinging.
Well, it's easy to, I guess it's that thing, like we do on the podcast now. You just go to the phone and tell it to do not disturb.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do that late at night because, like you say, most of the rest of the world is asleep. And during the daytime, there's that thing about being in the music business. You've got to be able to do the business.
Yeah, that's it.
So when you left doing London Music Group, what happened for you? What happened next?
Yeah, so that was kind of really, some cool things actually happened. Like I learned a lot about creativity. I learned a lot about how to be able to use your left and right brain at the same time. So lots of client care and actual kind of looking after a whole like suite of production and multiple staff. We hired another writer when I was there, a guy I went to uni with and still work with now. His name's David Turner. Plays in a great band called Sweet Talk now. He's also a lecturer down at SAE in Melbourne. For a long time, we were employed as songwriters, producers at London Music Group or LMG. we then went to a subcontracting thing because we then both started teaching a little bit. So we were able to teach on the side and write jingles and play gigs. And
so you're diversifying your sources of income.
exactly. So then became what we would call now like having more of a portfolio career where we'd have different parts of our portfolio we'd be working on regularly. So that was cool. So I started teaching a little bit at TAFE, just a few hours a week initially. I was teaching like some copyright stuff, some music business things, and some music theory for like a diploma of music industry or diploma of music performance or a diploma of sound production, and also a diploma of music business at the time. And then that I've now been doing that for 17 years.
Wow. That's gone quick.
Yeah. But probably for the last 10 years of that or so, I've moved from the vet space, so the vocational education space, into the higher education space. So now delivering bachelor degrees. We had a partnership with the University of Canberra at TAFE Queensland, and now we're with a partnership with Southern Cross University, and then we're moving on to a new university partnership from next year as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, looking after that. So mostly teaching songwriting or specialist songwriting, specialist record production, and some ensemble-based units and things as well. Okay.
Throughout doing all of that, you're still gigging.
Yep.
And you're still, because you have your own recording studio as well at home.
Yep.
You built a studio in your backyard. It's a nice studio called Blind Boy. Blind Boy Studio? Blind Boy Studio?
Blind Boy Studios, yeah.
Blind Boy Studios?
Yeah.
And you're producing other artists. So there's a lot of things that you've got to juggle. How do you work out how to manage your time? What do you do that helps you manage that in an efficient way?
I suppose having a very kind of slick calendar is one of the big things for me. So let's say to my wife all the time, like if it's not in my calendar, I don't know what's happening. Even like picking up the kids or making dinner or we're going on holiday at this time or whatever, like it's got to be in the calendar. I don't know about it. So that's something that I kind of look at quite religiously. Course coordinating and lecturing in the degree is kind of the mortgage payer, I suppose, and making records and touring and gigging and all that other kind of stuff is kind of the cream on top, I suppose, but like your passion projects and things like that. But
do you find that you have to prioritize? Like I know, so now you're touring with Amy Shark.
Yeah.
And that came about because you were producing, writing, recording before she signed a deal.
Correct.
So you've been there from the very ground up with her. Obviously, if you've got a full-time job with a uni, but you're also touring with her, what happens when you have a clash? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, and it's something that I have to kind of keep reminding myself of as well. But I suppose the reason why I became a teacher and the reason why kind of it works is, especially working for TAFE Queensland and in that space, is you're essentially hired to be a content expert first, then an educator second. So, and another big part about your role in those kind of things is, for any teacher across the world really, is maintaining a level of industry currency.
And having real world experience.
100%. So you can't get more industry current than industry tours happening right at that time. So
with probably one of the biggest acts in the country.
That's right, yeah. So I've been able, luckily enough, a lot of the touring over the last almost 10 years now has fallen in spaces in academic periods.
Oh, okay.
So we, for example, we just finished a 21 show tour across regional Australia called the Songs and Stories Tour with Amy, which was just kind of an acoustic tour, just me on piano, her on acoustic guitar, telling stories about her career and how she wrote songs and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And that fell in non-teaching periods of a complete tour, which was fantastic. We did a whole arena tour at the end of last year, which started at the end of a teaching period. So I've been really, really lucky in that instance. But the other good thing is I've been doing it for 17 years now, teaching for 17 years. So got plenty of long service leave. We've got a really great teaching team at the uni. So they can kind of step in when I'm on tour, and they tour themselves. So we kind of help out when they're on tour and all that kind of stuff. And as a student, I would hope that you'd prefer to be learning off someone who is actually doing what they say or practicing what they preach.
Yeah.
Than just learning off someone that's just kind of telling them what it could be like, you know.
Yeah.
So.
When you were going through uni, what teachers did you have, and how did you find their experience and how it affected you?
Sure. One of my teachers, his name was Gav Carfoot. He became my master's supervisor as well. So did some post-grad research, and I went with him because I remember him being a really great teacher, and he's doing some awesome stuff in the industry now. He's like writing a lot of like country music and doing some stuff with James Johnson, written a few songs with him and that co-writes with him that have gone really well.
They were basically people that were out working in the real world as well.
100%, yeah. Another production teacher, his name was Brendan Anthony. He did some like In Excess records and Chisel and Wheatus and
so
stuff like that. Oh, 100%. You kind of really look up to those guys, and they are doing some and still doing great stuff, you know. So it's just great to see. So they kind of set a platform, and then it's for others to kind of come along and do what they do, you know. It's like it's really cool.
If you had to look back through everything that you've done up until this point, what would you say would be one highlight, one thing that you're going, man, that was the most amazing thing that I ever could have thought I could do?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I suppose the easy ones, the easy answers to those are kind of like big gigs that you've played and things like that. So yeah, like played like Lollapalooza in Chicago and like played the Jimmy Fallon show, things like that. Like they're the easy answers and super cool. But sometimes for me the thing that I enjoy the most is the creation process. So the first part of making records and writing stuff, you know, where there might be a couple of lyrics or a bit of a melody or a few chords hanging about, and then it's up to me as a record producer and songwriter to then build it into something and then and then develop a sound for somebody and take in a direction that they never thought was potentially possible. That's really where I would suppose the vast majority of my work comes from in the studio, rather than being like just a recording engineer. It's that kind of, here's a couple of chords.
Being part of the actual process of writing the song and production.
So that kind of collaborative.
Is there any particular songs that stand out?
Again, probably one. Again, it's probably the resume one that you'd put down. There's a track called Golden Fleece that Amy and I worked on. Again, she's an amazing songwriter, and it's the reason why she's kind of where she is at the moment, and has been over the last decade or so. But there was a period where she just kind of called me up on the phone and she's like, I want to make some records. Don't really have much money to pay you. Is there something that we can do? And I was like, well, I was actually looking to build my portfolio anyway, so how about we just come in and we'll just see what happens, and we'll go like 50-50 in songs, and we'll buy some beers and then call it a day type deal. And from that we made one of the first sessions we did a song called Golden Fleece, and then so she pretty much had lyric and melody and some structural things down, and then we just kind of built a track around that and a day's work, and then put it out, and then it won like the best pop song at the 2016 Queensland Music Awards, and then that was kind of and that was on the EP that eventually Adore was on, that kind of started some things. And so that's kind of one of the major ones. But yeah, I've just been working with another artist. Her name's Sarah May, from Brisbane. She's only like early 20s, really great songwriter, writes songs, and had a whole suite of just really beautiful songs, but they existed in acoustic guitar, a couple of chords, and voice, and that's how it was. And then the first track that we did in the studio with her was a song called Fixtures, and she's a really big fan of an artist called Olivia Dean, and she's like, oh, I love this song, but there's no way that I think I can kind of get it there, and that was kind of our direction, and then we were able to do that, and again, in a day, we kind of produced it all up, and then she's kind of just rapped with how it came out, and then we've been a bit more finicky with it with a few other songs, and she's got an EP that'll be out shortly, but...
As I mentioned earlier, you play a multitude of instruments. When you're in the studio recording, do you play real bass?
Yeah.
And then you play keys, because you play guitar.
Yeah.
What about drums? I know I've seen some footage of you having a crack at the drum kit.
Yeah, so especially on recordings with a bit of elastic time and stuff like that. I play drums on a lot of records now, which is cool. But yeah, I
guess I mean, I've done the same thing, and it's that thing you can record bits in sections, and you can zhuzh up the timing.
100%. Yeah, I even like doing sometimes. Here's just like the kick and the snare, and then here's all your cymbals and stuff, and here's your hats on completely separate takes.
Yeah, so you got separate control.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I guess it's just being able to record them in such a way that they've still got the space around them.
100%. So I would have all of the mics live on every take. So instead of it just being, say, 12 drum tracks, you've got 36 you're working with. But it works, you know? So there's no rules, which I love about recording as well. So just because there's I don't know, it used to be the thing, or in my brain anyway, and a lot of my students' brains, that, okay, we've got a 4-piece band, so there's only going to be this amount of drums, this, and one guitar, one bass, one vocal, and it's like, well, that's how you might do it live, or play it live without backing tracks or whatever, but we've got so much more of a palette that we can paint with now, and we can figure out how we're going to play it live later, but let's just make the song as beautiful as we can, and throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. How do you find these days people have like budgeting for recording? You're spending time doing it, and your time has got to be quite valuable, one would imagine. How do you find people go with being able to have a budget to record an album these days?
I think that last thing that you said, record an album, is becoming said less and less. People...
More of a song.
Yeah. Well, that's my experience in the studio anyway. The want to record an album is very much it's a romantic exercise, you know. They want to do it because they want to be able to do that, or they might be at a level where charting is a thing and they want to be seen to be doing releases and things like that. The vast majority of my clientele base will be recording like smaller releases, so EPs, or just do singles at a time. I got one band that I work with where they basically book a date with me every 2 or 3 months, lock it in, and they've been coming in since 2020. And we just punch out stuff, and they've just got plenty of stuff that they've got content for days. They might release a song every 3 months or every 4 months, but they're coming in every 2 or 3 months, so they're always ahead.
Yep.
They've always got more songs, but they'll end up creating albums out of that and making vinyl and selling that to their fan base and stuff like that, but they're only ever really thinking at singles at the time.
City Over Sand is something you've been doing for quite a long time. Is it different doing that stuff with Dan and with Jules? Is that different to everything else that you do? Do you have a different role when you're doing that?
100%, absolutely. Yeah, so a lot of the records that I'm making as a producer is very much in the pop skew. So I do some kind of like garage rock or some indie stuff, but everything kind of has a underlying pop sensibility or pop sensibility about it in terms of like sounds and like structures and all of that kind of stuff, formatting. But with Dan and Jules, it's more of a kind of feeling really about it. And my role in the band is an instrumentalist, but I kind of feel as though it's a producer first. So Dan is a very, very prolific songwriter, beautiful songwriter, just does it because he kind of needs to, you know, writes a poem, a haiku poem every single day. So he's very creative and he knows his lane, and then he'll bring some stuff to me and Julesy, and then we'll kind of work it out in the in the jam room, or Dan will send me a track and then we kind of talk about it and then do the pre-production verbally, and then and then we kind of go about it that way. But it's one of those things, being great mates and all that kind of stuff. It's very hard to get in the same room all at the same time at the moment with everyone's schedules and things like that. So we don't get to see each other as much as we would want to be able to work on music.
So would you say that's more of for you more of a love project?
Yeah, it's definitely the passion thing. Like I would never ever charge them money for anything, because it's like I just love it so much, you know. But it's one of those things that going back to like what my role would be, it's very much a it's different to,
because you're an actual band member, as opposed to being someone's production team.
Sure.
I guess is that
I suppose so.
Is that a reasonable way of?
I suppose so, yeah. But I can still distance myself from being. I've tried to release my own music before as a solo person, and that's just something I can't do, because I couldn't differentiate being the artist and making production decisions, because I think where I wanted it to be was so much higher than where I needed it to be and things like that. Whereas I can be pretty, I don't know, dry at times or blunt and make decisions very quickly about creative things.
That's one of the wonderful things about doing the jingle recording and having deadlines and having to work quickly.
Yeah.
It trains you very well for that.
100%.
And I guess it's a good from the client's point of view, because you're not wasting their time.
Yeah.
And time is money.
True, yeah. But I think I can still differentiate myself from being the producer and being part of the band with those guys. But I think the way that we approach making a record is very different to how I would do it, like naturally, professionally, because we're still mates. We still want to get together and hang out and have a beer, and we probably talk too much smack than be productive in the studio. But I'd still rather do that most days than anything else, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. We spoke about highlights. What's something that you've done, or decision that you've made, something that's happened along the way that you either regret or wish hadn't happened, or wish you'd made a different decision?
Oh, wow.
I guess this is an interesting way of looking at it. Has there ever been a time when you thought, this is all too hard, I'm going to give it away and do something else?
Yes. And I've told this story before to probably not many people, but yeah, I at the moment make 100% of my income from music-related endeavors. So whether I'm teaching music or making records or touring or playing in bands, there was a period where I wanted to give it all away and just go and coach cricket or something like that, where I was having some industry-related issues with some particular personnel, and it was just making me fall out of love with music. And then you kind of just need to kind of just check your head at times, because then you kind of look around at what you're doing, like touring the world, playing with your best mates all the time, doing some great things. You look around and go, actually, the problem probably wasn't what it was, and it was a bit of a mountain out of a molehill type thing. And then you just got to be able to just really prioritize the things in your life and what you actually want to do and why you're doing things. And I think that just kind of made it clear for me. But yeah, there absolutely has been times where I have thought it's all too hard and all that kind of stuff. But I suppose it's the hard times make you really appreciate the good times. And the other thing is, like, we're not kind of, it's not brain surgery, you know, like it's a pretty privileged thing for us to be doing, to be able to have the lifestyle that we do by playing music, you know. It's pretty rad.
It is. Is there, not wanting to push you too hard to divulge anything that you don't want to talk about, but what was the main thing that was the problem? Was it because of being away from family and touring? Was there a particular thing that you can say, okay, it was because of finances? Was it because of?
It was 100% people who I thought that I should have well, the people in their position, they probably should. I respected their opinion too much, and they were telling me things that were completely false, and they were trying to manipulate me out of a situation when they had a vested interest in other things, but they were going about it in the wrong way. And yeah, it just was ugly, and it just wasn't pleasant. But yeah, not many people would know about that. But yeah, at the
So
time,
it changed your perception of those people.
oh, completely, yeah, and sectors of the industry. But it made me kind of like know what to look out for a little bit more.
I guess it's one of those things, you put it down to experience and go, okay, well,
100%, yeah.
that was an experience that you had that you learnt something from.
100%, yeah. And which I think is almost every experience that you'll have in the industry. You're gonna be able to learn something from. If you're open to it, you will should be able to learn.
Yeah,
be
from the
learning
good things
something.
and the bad things, all the way around.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the most wonderful thing. I remember when you first came into the band, there was a whole, and I'd been around for quite a while when you were still quite young. But I can remember, I mean, and it's the same when I had, when Troy Wright first joined the band. You guys, young and not necessarily very experienced in the world, but also brought something new and fresh, and things that I could learn from, things that I probably maybe was stale and stuck in my ways, and that's a really, really cool thing. What do you do now that inspires you with, as far as young people go? Is there any young talent that you can see coming through that you think is going to set the world on fire? Or
Oh, absolutely, 100%, yeah. And that's one of the things too. Like there will be points where you do get a bit stuck in your ways all the way through your career, and you just need that little bit of like inspiration or someone that's a bit infectious to like get so excited about music, and then you're off again, you know, and then you're like a little kid. But yeah, but there's things now that I'm like using every day from things that I learnt from playing in the accidents, you know. So like learning how to like, you got to get ready for 60 songs the next day that you didn't know before, and you're playing it on a different instrument that you didn't have to do. And even like simple things like being able to analyze songs as the song's playing and understand your diatonic harmony, so in major and minor for pop songs or whatever, so you can kind of hear it once and then be able to play the rest of the song and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the exciting things of people that are kind of coming through the industry that you kind of want to see and want to help. There's lots of students that we see coming through. They're doing great things, great producers, great performers that you want to help. And there's an unbelievable artist on the Gold Coast at the moment. Her name's Lyric. Really great songwriter, self-produces herself, so hungry. She's built a huge social media following, and now she's booking tours all around Australia based on social followings and fan bases, numbers and stuff in different cities that she's got and all that kind of stuff. And it's basically like watching like mini like Taylor fandom, you know, like just young, just kids that are just so into it, and she's doing it all herself.
That's great.
Yeah, and yeah, helped her out a little bit just with some. She won the Gold Coast Music Prize at the Gold Coast Music Awards a couple of years ago. So I was able to kind of just have a few chats with her and help her mix one of her tracks off her last EP that came out. But yeah, I think she's going to be doing some great things. Just signed management with the guys under Skeggs, who are kind of national level stuff. But yeah, there's lots of talent coming through this region in particular.
Yeah.
Which is.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just like the Gold Coast is just growing. Like since COVID, you know, like we've had a couple 100,000 people move here, and it's always going to be growing. So it's a great destination to live. It's a great destination to work in, and just naturally, just people are growing up here a bit more. So a bit more of a scene is kind of developing. And
but it's interesting. I find there's been a lot of talent come through Southeast Queensland. When you look at you don't have to go back. I mean, if you think about Powderfinger,
totally,
and if you think about on a worldwide stage, even Savage Garden. So I guess there's something happening here that's working out really quite well in that department. What is your plan for the next looking out over the 10-year vision of things? What are you going to still more of the same, or is there something else that you're looking to do?
I'd love to be playing more golf, but but yeah, I think like I said, like making records is really what I love doing the most.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to keep doing that and co-writing and making records with people. Yeah, I want to invest a bit more than I am at the moment. Just make my money work for me a little bit more, and everything I'm doing at the moment is so service based. So one thing that I've done in the last couple of years to be a little bit less service based, is I created an online music production course that I was hoping that I'd build that as a resource for people to learn how to produce music a little bit better, and then they can just download that and use that without me having to be one-on-one teaching them, So that's one thing that I kind of been looking is how I can kind of help people, but do it on a broader range than just that kind of one-to-one service.
Yeah. I'll put links down below, so for anyone who is interested in checking that out, they can go and click on the link and go and check out your course.
Yeah, great.
That'll be it. So you've got 2 daughters.
Yep.
How do you see things working out for them as they get older? Do you think that they'll become a part of the music industry, or do you think they'll do something else? If they do want to do music, was that something that you would encourage?
100%, yeah. It's one of those things, like, I suppose anyone that's really hungry for something, especially in the music industry, like there's plenty of people that will want to be in the music industry but don't have the drive or the passion to actually go out there and create their own business and network and try and get their own gigs. They'll do something and then they'll want people to come and kind of help them out and like help me, make me famous, do the hard work for me type thing. But that's kind of one thing that I would always instill in my kids is like, you've got to work and you have to work and you've got to work harder than everybody else. Like when I was at uni, I was kind of okay at what I was doing, but music production and songwriting was kind of newer to me than playing euphonium, for example, right? So, but I had to work harder than everybody else and put more hours in, and I did over a very, very long period of time. And
it's paid off.
And producing jingles and writing songs and all that kind of stuff really helped me do that. Got faster than people. I was doing it more than people. So I kind of got to a level quicker than other people, and that really, really helped. But yeah, Summer, she's now 15, really into dance, and she does dance of the 5 nights of the school week. She's doing like multiple dance classes, like 4 of the nights or something. So she's and does it at school as well. And Cleo, she was kind of learning drums for a little bit. Still loves her music, but she's a bit more of a netballer. Does netball like excellence and stuff at school. But if they were to move into the music industry, it'd just be encouragement and helping them do stuff. But really kind of instilling them into them. It's work based. So you got to work hard to get what you want.
AI is creeping into our worlds at a very fast pace.
Sure is.
Have you ever done much experimenting, and what is your whole take on the whole AI experience?
Yeah, the AI thing, I think it's not going anywhere. So if we're resistant to it, it's you're just going to be that old man screaming at the clouds, So you got to. It's just a tool. People thought that the bands were dead and drummers were dead when they invented the drum machine. Yeah. They thought education was gone when they invented the calculator, and calculators in classrooms is going to stop academia, Like just things come along, technology especially, where there's initial resistance to it, but then it's adopted. I think there's a lot of really great things that it can do creatively, Like even with...
See it as more of an assistant.
Yeah, great, absolutely, yeah. It's a tool. We use it in class a little bit when we're looking for different ways when people are kind of stuck on lyric or something.
Okay.
It's like
ChatGPT
is like, give me 10 different ways over 7 syllables to say I love you over 7 syllables, but in the style of how Chris Martin might say it. And it's just about how well you can prompt it, and then it'll give you some things, and then that might be a seed that will then take you on other places. You're not really asking it to write the whole song for you and all that.
Maybe give you an idea, make you think about things in a different way.
Exactly, yeah. There is some cool things where you can prompt something and then a whole Nickelback-esque song will come out of it and all that kind of stuff. But that's only ever really going to reproduce things that are already existing.
Yeah.
If you look at any kind of art ever, right, it's always taken something from inspiration from something, but it's moved something into a new direction.
Yeah, breaking new ground.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think AI is ever going to be able to break new ground or to be able to move into a new direction, because it can only ever really
reproduce
exactly
what's already been done.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. But yeah, I think it's I think it can be a cool tool if used correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were young, and I guess this is a changing thing, but who did you look up to? Who was a mentor? Who was someone or a group of different people, as you've gotten older and older, that you looked up to as a mentor that helped you forge the path that you're on?
That's a good question. I suppose that's like an ever-changing scale, right? There's always
I guess it's that you reach a certain goal, and it might...
Yeah.
Or maybe it doesn't have to.
Yeah. I suppose like when I was very young, it probably was my old man being very much a mentor, you know, like, so like he conducted us, he taught us how to play music and things like that. And initially, so he was very much a big, and he was also quite a big like advocate for me to kind of continue down a contemporary music kind of.
So he was very encouraging for you to
100%.
Go into doing music.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder whether that's because he didn't follow music as a career himself.
Oh, okay.
He became a Sparky and then business owner, and now he's kind of finished his career working in procurement in mining and stuff like that. Went back to uni and studied again and stuff like that. So still had a very fulfilling career, but music was definitely his passion. Mm-hmm. But then as a younger brother too, like growing up, very competitive with your older brother and things like that. So we used to compete against each other a lot in brass band solos and stuff like that, on piano solos and all that kind of stuff. And he's very, very good, still a musician today, and he's actually a conductor of a brass band.
Oh, wow.
Now in Brisbane, Windsor Brass, and lead cornet player for Brisbane Excelsior, and music teacher himself. So he's very musical. So we kind of had that sibling rivalry growing up. So he was always the guy that was the best, and I was trying to beat. And
pushed you to be better.
Yeah, but same thing when we were playing handball or cricket or basketball in the backyard, you know, you want to beat your brother. But yeah, then at school, just kind of meeting mates and playing in bands with those guys, and so that was there were some guys that were kind of cool to hang out with, and one of my mates, Simon, he was a very, very good classical guitar player, and I didn't play guitar. The only reason I picked up guitar really was as a different songwriting tool when I was at uni. So just very much self-taught, like, oh, that's a D chord, that's a G chord, and then figure your way around it, but purely as a songwriting tool. Mm-hmm. But then kind of getting your jobs and looking at other people, like Wazza was very much a very big influence for me, like learning how to look at music and look at creativity and look at lyric in a very, very different way. Mm-hmm. Even look at drum programming and things like that, because thinking like a drummer, I wasn't a drummer. He kind of, like, whether he knows it or not, he probably wouldn't even think that he's taught me drumming stuff, but even just watching the way that he thought about drums and played drums and stuff like that really helped me in kind of learning how to program drums and things like that. And then, just great other musicians and producers and things like that. I do play a lot of instruments and all that kind of stuff, but I, in my brain, see myself as a producer first, as a like just that creator first. Guy Dan Nigro at the moment, I'm just love everything he touches. He's like producing like Chapel Roan and like Olivia Rodrigo, and just very great.
So I was going to say, what sort of stuff are you listening to at the moment? What do you like listening to? What makes you excited about music? Yeah,
so my tastes have changed a lot. Often depending on what I'm working on. So I'd probably say like 90% of my clientele base is female-based singer-songwriters in the pop realm. So I actually listen to a lot of favorite artists over the last few years would be Olivia Rodrigo. Just the way that the records sound and how they've been put together, and the sound choices and structures and production choices and things like that. It's elite.
I've seen a couple of her video clips too. They're really quite creative as well.
100%, yeah. My favorite album of the last year that I just can't stop listening to, especially when I'm on planes, is by an artist called Lizzie McAlpine, an album called Older. I just love everything about it. Very, very kind of pared back, and everything is just very considered. Just beautiful, beautiful album. But yeah, that's a very almost like Joni Mitchell-esque type thing, which is, asked me 20 years ago and I probably wouldn't have been listening to that. I was like into Incubus and Pearl Jam and things like that. It was like
true child of the 90s.
Yeah. Audio,
2000s.
Audio slave, and yeah, so very, very different. But I think just as I've professionally grown, it's not that my music taste has grown, I listen to very different things. So I'm very much listen to music from a producer point of view, sound and soundscape. But yeah, the emotion, does it make you feel something? And if it does make you feel something, why? But how did it make you feel something? And then trying to then go and reproduce that for other artists. That's kind of what, I get out of it.
There's a big difference between what is a great song and what is a great production.
100%.
Can you sort of talk a little bit about what the difference between the two is and how the two marry together?
Sure. So for me, production is the overarching idea of everything. Like in songwriting terms or in academic terms, we call that prosody. So how everything inside a work will work together to work for the same goal, whether that's an emotion driven thing or whether that's a story driven thing. What are the things like musically, like production wise, like do we put an extra bit of reverb on that to tell the story differently, or what happens when we make that completely dry or put tons of distortion on it, or like how is that helping to tell the story and get that emotional point across. So production for me is the overarching decision making about everything and having creative input into something, which would be different to engineering, which is the getting stuff to kind of sound good on its kind of input source and things like that, which is a little bit different to actually having complete creative control over everything.
So the production being the overarching, complete, the big picture stuff.
Yeah.
And engineering being it more breaking it down into an individual thing, not necessarily I guess looking at the trees or standing back and looking at the forest.
Sure. 100%, yeah. So a producer might tell the engineer what to do.
Yeah.
Often the producer will be the engineer, so they're instinctively making those decisions, but in a hierarchical kind of way, producer would have the idea, communicate that to the engineer, and then the engineer might push some buttons to do some stuff.
How would you define what makes a great song? Taking the production out of the picture altogether.
Yeah, great question. So a great song for me has to have, the number one thing is it has to have some overarching great connection point. So is it going to connect to somebody or a huge group of people? And it doesn't matter if it's only to one person, but is it going to mean something meaningful to one person? And that doesn't necessarily mean, is it going to make you cry or does it make you sad when you hear it because it's a breakup song? Does it make you happy? Does it make you want to throw shit at the wall? Does it make you want to like headbang? Like whatever. But does it have some kind of connection point, and has that intention been met by every single thing inside that song? Okay. So whether that's melodically, harmonically, like production-wise, like everything. And then there's that old adage, like every great song should be able to exist in its kind of most natural form. So
simplest form.
Yeah, so like the whole campfire idea, right? If you played it just on an acoustic guitar around a campfire, does it have that same impact? Obviously, production can heighten some things sometimes, but you can't. Great production can make a bad song better, but it won't make a bad song great. A great song can only ever come from a great song to start with.
We've covered quite a bit of ground. And I think at that point, we'll say thank you very much, Brad.
Of course.
Man, it's
Thanks
been a
for
while.
having
We
me,
haven't
Scotty.
seen each other for a while.
I know.
Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you all on the next podcast. Cheers.